So I was recommended this video right here by Jake the Alright, and it's called My Thoughts on the Response to Marathon. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to share some of my own personal thoughts in regard to the response to Marathon. You know, there's a lot of things here in this video that I agree with, some things I have some small counterpoints to and whatnot, and I just thought it would be a great opportunity to flesh out some of these points and again, just share my own thoughts. Quick sidebar, I have to preface this video by saying if you are not subscribed to Jake the Alright, please do so right away. I'm going to drop his channel down in the description and down in the comments. Jake the Alright is an absolute GOAT. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's been covering Marathon for quite some time, and his channel is really starting to take off as of late because of all the Marathon hype and whatnot. Jake, I love you like cooked food. If you see this video, please, please, please do know I would love to run some matches with you in the alpha and the beta. I almost said beta, what the heck? In the alpha, in the beta, when the game actually releases, you name it. I would love to hang out, run some matches, and just have a good time, homie. I ain't the best, but we would have a good time. Anyways, I digress there. Make sure y'all sub to Jake the Alright, all right? Now, again, I'm going to have some points that I'm going to highlight here, some things that I truly agree with, some things I'm like, maybe we could work around, whatever the case may be. And yeah, with that being said, let's roll the video.
Hello. I am slowly working on putting together videos about all the really great narrative stuff we have gotten about Marathon from the ARG, the gameplay trailers, and that incredible cinematic. But my goal for the channel is to be a comprehensive place for all things Marathon. I obviously have an infatuation with the lore, but I also seek to cover the news around the game and major events from within the community, and then eventually gameplay. In an effort to do this, I wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts on the responses to Marathon's reveal event from last Saturday. So this is that. I do think it's necessary to remind everyone that I am biased. I have played the game before, Bungie has sent me some cool gifts in the mail, and the success of the channel is inherently tied to the popularity of Marathon. I will be sharing my thoughts.
Hey, real quick, shout out to Jake for just saying, like, look, I'm gonna have some biases here. Like, I played the game. I need the game to succeed so that my channel can thrive. Hey, look, I'm right there with you, Jake. I'm right there with you. I may not be as ingrained in Marathon as you are, or as involved in Marathon as you are at this moment in time. Hopefully, fingers and toes crossed, that changes in the future. But, like, totally agree. I know for a fact I'm gonna have some biases here, but I'm gonna try to keep things as objective as possible, if that makes sense.
Thoughts on a lot of the problems people are voicing, and I will try to approach them as objectively as I can with my reasoning laid out. But obviously,
my man, me
take
too,
what I say with a grain of salt and remember where I'm coming from. So when you make your determination as to the credibility of what I'm saying, hopefully that's in mind. I will be using some clips or screenshots or quotes from people just to show you guys the exact feedback I'm responding to, but obviously, even if I disagree with these people, I have no ill will towards them. I will also list their name and the title of their video if they are a known online person, so you can check them out for yourself. I will probably also try to hit them with a compliment when I talk about their stuff, so they know I'm not trying to be rude if, for whatever reason, they see a clip. Alright, I want to start with some of the biggest pieces of feedback.
Real quick, again, I can't stress it enough. Jake is the GOAT for that. Just saying, like, look, he's like, look, I don't want no conflict at all, right? Like, I just want to show y'all it's all love, but I just disagree here, you know? Hey, I feel the same way. I may come across a little, I may come across a little bit more abrasive, but similar sentiment there. So keep that in mind.
I've seen within our community, especially on the Discord. One sentiment I have seen stated over and over since last year has been about how much people wanted visual customization. The original Vidoc had talked about players being able to, quote, visually represent themselves in really interesting ways. This, in combination with the presentation of the runners and knowledge about how the biomata technology works, led people to hope or believe that there would be a greater level of customization present for how people choose to display themselves in-game. I honestly feel like a lot of this kind of echoed a greater desire for things to be more like how Halo was set up originally. Kind of standardized, faceless soldier types that had a list of colors and armor variations that you could assign to your avatar. I think people connect with this idea because the premise of telling your own stories in this extraction environment would be easier for people if they didn't feel like they were wearing someone else's face. And in a game where people already struggle to understand how the story is told, I think this is another barrier that makes it more difficult for people to get invested in the narrative. I personally don't care if I can make my runner look a certain way in the version of the game that I played. I
Same.
think the characters look cool and have very interesting abilities that make the engagements very dynamic. I also think there is a gameplay element here as well that definitely suits the class or hero system that they have. It makes sense that cloaking abilities, hand cannons, and scanner abilities are in the game, and if those abilities weren't locked to a certain visual appearance, it could be aggravating to deal with in-game, where the consequences of failure are much higher than other multiplayer shooters. For example, if the visual presentation was more customizable, it could be more difficult to tell what abilities other players had. If I see a group of voids running into a structure, I might be less likely to engage with them. I know that they can go invisible, and inside buildings, I feel like it's a lot easier for them to disappear. Whereas if I saw a group of voids in an open area, I would know that their invisibility probably couldn't get them to a hiding place as quickly, and thus it would lead me to engage with them there.
Yo, like that is such a great point, and I never thought about it, but it makes so much sense. Yo, by the way, sidebar, if you all hear growling in my background, just know it's my dogs over here playing, and they're fighting over a bone, playfully, of course, and they just keep going back and forth. So if you hear any growling, it's that, all right? Getting back on topic here, but again, a great example is I was a huge Apex Legends advocate. Like I played Apex, like I think I have probably like 1,500 hours in Apex at least. And there were so many times where, due to somebody's skin, I couldn't tell exactly who they are or what they were. Like there were so many times where at a distance I would have thought that that was an octane until I get hit with the black hole and find out, oh, it was a horizon. Now I'm getting naded with arc stars and thermite grenades and stuff like that. And now I am in that down but not out state. You know what I'm saying? So like there could be a lot of confusion that comes through like excess customization and stuff like that. And something that's class based like this, it's important to keep consistency across the board so that I can look out and see, just like Jake said, you know, okay, I just seen that team of 3 void walk into that, close quarters area. I ain't going in there. I'm leaving them be because they're going to be cloaked. They're going to catch me lacking and it's going to be a GG's. You know what I'm saying? So no, I think that's an incredible point, and I actually echo that. Now, with that being said, I still would love to see customization just so that you can, spec into your runner the way you want to, right? And I'm pretty confident we're going to get that. We seen in that short film, the glitch with different variations. So I'm confident we'll have some customization there, but I would assume that the model stays consistent, if that makes any sense. So yeah, Jake, plus 1,000 points, man.
Just for example's sake, when I was involved in the playtest, there was this moment where I was in a full team. I think I was playing as Void, and we had a glitch and maybe a Locust with us, and we ran into this other full team right on the kind of precipice of this large storage type building that's on Marsh. We were able to take out 2 of their teammates, but I think we lost 1. And then one of our teammates got into a 1-on-1, kind of engagement with the other player and lost. So I was left as the solo man standing as Void, and the other team was able to pick up one of their players. So I was kind of being hunted by these 2 individuals. One of the key things going into that engagement was us identifying the composition of that other team to help determine our strategy. And I can assume that the other team knew, all right, we have a Void in the building somewhere with us. That probably put them into like a state of unease as they were searching around the structure looking for me as I was
100%.
going invisible and crawling through shafts and hiding around to try to get the jump on them or pick up one of our teammates.
1,000%.
That engagement and the way it played out felt very tense and cool, and like our knowledge of the other players' abilities and how the map was designed and my own abilities was creating a very dynamic situation that had multiple stages of a story that we can tell about our experience on this run, and also like an interesting PvP game-like scenario. Ultimately, I did get killed as they got all of their friends back up and they hunted me down when I tried to go revive my teammates. But I think it's a good example of how the game was really designed around the premise of these characters and their abilities being pivotal to the experience.
Yeah, and like to further echo that point, I think it will further spec into the whole notion or like the whole idea of every run being different, right? Like if you see a team of 3 Void as an example, like you know for a fact that's probably going to be a sweat lower team. Like, who else is going to run 3 void runners? You know what I'm saying? Somebody that wants to be able to reposition without you seeing them, getting in and out, right? Like, so you know for a fact, okay, that team's going to be sweaty. Or better yet, probably a team of 3 glitches, because they're going to be sliding around everywhere and like, you know, like, so what do? Man, you're going to see that and be like, dude, let me just avoid that conflict. I'm going to just chill out. I'm going to rotate elsewhere. Or, man, I'm going to just exfil, get out of here, and I'm going to get a fresh lobby because I ain't messing with them. If we get all these super duper, like, crazy skins that literally change the character models, like, to great detail, then it can be difficult to be able to decipher, okay, is that a glitch? Is that a void? Like, the only one that might be decipherable is Locust, because Locust looks so different than the other 3. But I digress there. I digress. You all get the point.
So while I think customization is a fun way to express yourself, I don't think that it suits this game based on how it was designed. Now, obviously, I think that there's room for skins and customization in terms of the gear that you're carrying, but I think completely. A really strong silhouette is important to making the experience of encountering other players and how you choose to engage them really satisfying. 1000%. And I really just enjoy the way this hero shooter extraction thing plays, despite what you may be seeing online about it. The next thing that I heard quite a bit of was that people don't like the art style, and I get it. If this kind of like clean, shiny, plastic world and characters aren't visually appealing to you, then maybe that means you won't play the game. I don't see anything Bungie is realistically going to do that would make you change your mind. I will say that the in-game stuff you're seeing is in alpha, and there will most likely be some big changes to the in-game presentation as textures and effects are refined and employed at launch. If the complaint is with the difference between the initial trailer and what we are seeing now, then I'm not really seeing that. I think that the design language was pretty much preserved, but we were just seeing the difference between something in-game and something that was like a full-blown render with all the pretty effects on it. There definitely has been some evolution in the design, which is natural over a multi-year development process, and maybe this is compounded by the fact that the assets aren't completed yet, but I never felt like we weren't getting something in line with what we had been shown previously.
Yeah, and truth be told, I can't really speak for that. You know, I did not get a chance to go and play test. I did not get a chance to play the alpha or anything like that. Like, games look so much different after being compressed and edited and doing all these different things to it. Like, I could literally have an image right here on my screen that looks immaculate, but after I go through the editing process, you know, it goes through compression, or somebody like renders it in 1080 and it was a 4K image, and then I try to upscale it to 4K. Like, things can start to look washed out and look funky and stuff like that. Again, I'm not well versed in that realm to the highest degree, right? My edits are very, very simple and stuff, but and then again, to piggyback off that, I didn't get a chance to like play at Bungie headquarters and stuff like that. No, I'm not sad about. Actually, I am a little sad about. I'm rambling. Whatever. You guys get the point. Let's keep it rolling.
I do think Marsh has an amazing look to it, and it feels very foggy and always on the verge of a storm, but some of the bright colors and contrasts that were more visually in line with the original stuff is a bit obscured by these elements.
That too, quick little sidebar, but like all we've seen is Dire Marsh. Dire Marsh is incredibly foggy. Like, of course, things in the distance are going to look washed out a bit because we're viewing it through fog. If anything, there's a bit of realism there. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something that popped in my head as he mentioned that. So yeah.
The other map I played, called Perimeter, was much brighter and a lot less hazy, if that makes sense. The caveat to that is that there were some unfinished textures and stuff on that map, and Marsh felt almost complete to me, so there's a chance that the visual presentation of the map could change, but I do think the map they chose to feature obscures some of those elements that may be stronger in other maps. Alright, I know I definitely missed some feedback from our community specifically, but I think some of it will be covered in the stuff I go over next. The next clip I want to talk about is this.
This is another component to it, is that, and if I look up Marathon, here we go. Marathon is Alpha's application, completely unnecessary gender identity question. It doesn't matter, male or female. So we'll look at some of the people and like what people have been talking about with the game, because obviously that matters a lot too.
And I just want to do this one first because I think it's the lamest. I don't know what the fuck a grums is, but this dude seems pretty ignorant. When you're looking for feedback on something you're making, it can be helpful to know what audience connects with it the most. Bungie might want to know if their game is connecting with a certain gender, and then take that into account when marketing or developing their game. To think that this is virtue signaling represents a clear lack of experience in life, and reading it out loud and not saying that that seems silly is kind of strange to me. And while we're here, I'm just going to play this clip of this dude.
I think that pretty much every single circumstance, it's always a bad idea to make characters that are not conventionally attractive. Because this is, again, this is a shooter game, and shooter games are going to be primarily played by men. So if you're making a shooter game that's primarily made for men, then you should make sure that all of the female characters in the game are fuckable.
Like, dude, like what do I even say to that, right? Like, again, I'm not going to be a bully here, right? I'm not going to mention anything about Asmongold's aesthetics here, right? Like, I'm just not, like, this guy's bank account runs laps around mine, right? Like, I'm not going to do that, but I don't know about you all, but I don't play video games to goon off, right? Is that the proper term? Goon? To be a gooner or something? I think that's the proper term, right? Like, I don't play video games with the thought of like getting excited and getting in this place where I'm getting hot and heavy because of my character model, right? Or I'm looking at my teammate's character model and now I'm feeling some rise in my draws, man. Like, I don't do that, right? Like, I mean, I'm a little bit different because I have a wife, so I'm married, and you know, hey, look, we handle our business in that regard, right? But even if I wasn't married and I was a single individual and I wanted attention, dude, I would go hunt for that attention. I wouldn't worry about it being in an actual video game, right? Whether if it's me going to a bar or me going to the grocery store and socializing with the opposite gender, or if you are somebody that is attracted to the same gender, whatever the case may be, right? Like, that's what I'm gonna do. Or worst case scenario, I'm gonna get on an app. I'm gonna jump on Tinder or Bumble or something to be able to interact with somebody that I may have attraction to that is not a bunch of pixels on the screen. So I don't care if my character model is smashable or not. Like, what kind of take is that? And like, I'm sure I speak for a lot of other fellas out there that could care less what our character models look like. Like, yeah, Marvel Rivals is making a killing, making all these like explicit looking skins, you know. I think they have some swimsuit skins coming. That's cool. They can lean into that all they want, cool, but I'm just saying it's not needed for a game to be enjoyable or visually appealing. Like, come on, bro. Like, you definitely don't live in reality, Asmongold. Come on, man. Come on. All right, I'm gonna resume. Ran over.
So that's a thing that he chose to say? I think the characters look cool and are interesting. If you are a dude and you think all female characters in your video game should be fuckable, please don't say that out loud. Just like go on a walk or go to the library or check out some trees maybe. I don't know, but you need a break from
right?
the internet stuff for a little bit, I think. Next, I want to talk about this clip from Mr. Raffle Waffles. He did a ton of really fun coverage of the ARG, and you should also check out his video Eggs from like 10 years ago.
Because they're not immediately going, I see why this is sick, right? So to lean into that point a bit further, what is the hook of Marathon? What is it? Is it just that it's an extraction shooter? Okay, we've got a ton of those.
Excuse me, Mr. Raffle Waffles, but like, are the other extraction shooters in the room with us right now? Because like, I don't see them. This could just be a blind spot for me, but I feel like we don't have a lot of extraction shooters, especially ones that are accessible.
Man, Jake, you are preaching, homie. You are preaching. Like, I feel the exact same way. It blows my mind whenever I hear somebody say that extraction shooters are saturated. I'm like, where, who, how, why? Like, if I just sit here and I think top of mind, right? If I think of like the most successful extraction shooter currently, I think Tarkov right away, right? Who in the world is that game like accessible for? You know what I'm saying? Like, it probably takes you about 100 hours for you to even be considered a noob in Escape from Tarkov. And yes, I'm being facetious with my numbers, but it's something along the lines of that, right? Like, I'm deathly afraid of the game. I'm afraid to even buy into the game, because every time I think about doing it, I watch a gameplay and my heart rate just increases because of the thought of doing that, right? Like, there aren't any accessible extraction shooters, right? And what makes something accessible, in my opinion, is something that is casual friendly in some capacity, right? Something that is available on just about every platform, right? So not just on PC, on Steam or Epic Game Store, but on the most up-to-date Xbox, like, what is it, the Series X, right? The PS5, maybe if it can be runnable in some capacity on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know. Nintendo, do y'all, whatever, right? But for the most part, it's accessible. You know what I'm saying? It's easy for somebody to get off work, sit on their couch, and play from their couch on their 50-inch TV screen. We don't have an extraction shooter like that yet. DMZ was a somewhat decent attempt at it, but that game hasn't been supported since what, into 2022? And it still has a cult-like following. If you go search DMZ on YouTube right now, you're going to see creators still covering DMZ and doing great off of it. And you're going to see comments of people still playing DMZ, like, truth be told, right? It just goes to show the power of accessibility and the power of having a casual game mode. What other extraction shooters are accessible currently? Shoot. That's kind of the only one. Oh, Hunt Showdown. I'm sorry. Hunt. I give you your respect, but Hunt Showdown is a little bit more in the realm of Tarkov, and I'm just kind of spitballing, not from the sense of complexity, but from the sense of, like, needing to learn the game a great deal. And I believe how it approaches extraction is, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And then the setting, of course, is, I think, what is it now? Hunt Showdown 1896, right? So that doesn't really appeal to everybody, which there's nothing wrong with, right? But like me personally, jumping into Hunt Showdown, I'm like, no, like, give me a good old-fashioned, auto rifle, and I don't think you can get that in Hunt Showdown. You get, like, these revolvers that you're shooting, it takes 6 seconds to reload, right? So again, not necessarily my cup of tea, but I respect it. Game recognizes game, right? So outside of those two games, what other extraction shooters are accessible, from a console PC standpoint? Like, I can't think of any. If there are some, please comment down below, but I'm rambling here. I'm gonna continue the video because I'm sure Jake is going to talk his talk here.
Tarkov is in beta, has a bunch of glitches and cheaters. Hunt is incredibly niche in setting, weapons, and gunplay, and it takes maybe like 40 hours before you start to even get a little bit of like a good understanding of it.
That's what I'm
Call of
saying.
Duty DMZ is no longer getting updates or being supported and was a mode attached to a separate game. Battlefield 20.
Literally, quick sidebar, I skimmed through this video, so the fact that, like, Jake is literally solidifying the things I'm saying right now is like, hey, that's dope, Jake. I love you, homie. I love you. But seriously, like, he's spitting. I just had to say that real quick.
2042's Hazard Zone was pretty feature light. The Forever Winner is in early access and is pretty difficult. Level 0 extraction is shutting down, or maybe has shut down. Gray Zone Warfare seems super niche and is also in early access. Cycle Frontier is gone. I feel like I'm not missing a ton of games here, and of the experience you can name that I haven't, I'm willing to bet that they are pretty niche experiences as well.
Yeah, and out of what you said, Hazard Zone, DMZ, and Hunt Showdown, those are the only three that are accessible on console. If we got every single gamer in the world and put them in a box and say, what do you game on the most, console or PC, I'm just about confident that 80% of them, and I'm being a bit friendly with the numbers here, but maybe more like 85% of them, 85 to 90% of them, but I don't want to throw numbers that high. So let's just say 80% of them are console-focused gamers, you know what I'm saying, with the minority being on PC. And that's just the reality of the situation. A lot of people don't even know about PC gaming, if I'm keeping it a buck. A lot of my friends didn't find out about PC gaming until I brought it up, or until we were watching some Fortnite thing and we're like, people are playing on PCs, like, what in the world, right? And then all of a sudden we're opened up to this PC ecosystem. But before that, like, I didn't know what a PC, I didn't know you could really game like heavy on a PC. And then you fast forward to now, and of course I know, but there still are a lot of people out there that think the only way for you to actually get a quality gaming experience is going to be on a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. I think the Series X is the most recent one, I think. But yeah, or like maybe a Nintendo Switch, but yeah, Yeah, you know. So yeah, man, the market ain't saturated. It ain't.
And outside of the fact that they are a part of a niche genre to begin with, if we want to even make the claim that the market is possibly crowded, we would have to look at a bunch of games that don't even have release dates yet, I think, like Arc Raiders, Far Cry's possible extraction mode, or Exoborn. I think the thing that really separates Marathon for me will be the polish that Bungie is providing. I had fun in match 1 of Marathon. Is there still a learning curve? Yes, but it will 100% be more approachable than any of these games that are currently out. And I see a reality where a casual nightly PvP experience for someone could be doing a few runs in Marathon, whereas I think that is less likely with the other experiences being offered. I think
100,000%. Literally, I just said that. I picture a homie going home on the couch, jumping in, they're getting some runs in on Marathon with some of the homies, like just jumping in, grabbing whatever weapons they have, and just having fun, doing objectives, trying to take out other squads. I mean, it happens on Call of Duty Warzone right now. Like, there are homies that literally link up that we know are playing on 60-inch TVs just to play Warzone. I can't see them not doing the same thing on an extraction shooter. You know what I'm saying? Unless the art doesn't appeal to them or the loop doesn't appeal to them, you know?
I think there's a lot more here that will make it special, like the narrative, the puzzles, the terminal system, but honestly, I think that it is overlooked by a lot of people who are very tapped into the gaming world, just how powerful it is going to be that someone can sit down on their couch and play an extraction game without a ton of hassle.
Facts.
The extraction shooter experience is very engaging, and it has a ton of depth that I think a huge number of players who would enjoy it don't get to experience right now because of the barriers to entry within the genre.
Yep.
With that being said, if you don't like One Life multiplayer modes or multiplayer in general, then I don't think Marathon will be for you. I also don't think that Bungie offering some crazy outside-the-box premise is going to change that for a lot of people. I think a master is someone who does the basics perfectly, and I think Bungie is a master at FPS. If that translates in this game, there will be a lot of success from that alone.
There's a lot of friction in a game like Tarkov. There's a lot of like complexity and things that might not want you to open up the game ever. Hundreds of bullet types, thousands of individual items, quests that don't tell you at all where to go, no map, so much friction. There's so much friction to play Tarkov. Most people don't even open that game. But
me,
that friction is what makes the game so popular to its core audience. A perfect example is this, yeah? On this screen,
debatable.
You see every single item and its value. You don't learn the value as a player. Great if you're playing the game for the first time. Bad if you're playing the game for the 1,000th time. Because what makes extraction shooters good and interesting is giving that player the knowledge, the tools to like learn the game themselves.
Dude,
like, Shroud, love you, homie. Absolutely love you. But that's not the case, yo. Like, having a complex system like Tarkov does, as you mentioned, thousands of ammo types, and oh my gosh, I got shot in the ear. I need to go get an ear band-aid so I can go ahead and stop the bleeding there, and then, oh, I need to get a tourniquet for my eyebrow. Like, man, that's off-putting. That's off-putting, yo. Like, I work a full-time job. I work 2 jobs at this moment in time, right? Like, the last thing I want to do is learn all the complexities of a system like that. You know, like, I want the extraction experience 110%, but I want it in more of a simplified fashion. And I think that's the itch that Marathon is going to be able to scratch, yo. Like, and I'm just being honest here. Like, I'm not glazing Marathon. I think Arc Raiders can do something similar. Like, if I'm being totally honest, call a spade, like, truthfully, because Marathon is going to be, not Marathon, but Arc Raiders is going to be accessible as well, because it's going to be releasing on consoles and PC, you know? So I want the gameplay loop. I want it simplified a bit. Missions and stuff can be as complex as we need them to be, right? Like, because that's the fun part. How am I going to complete the missions? You know what I mean? But like, when it comes to loot, when it comes to implants, when it comes to upgrades and stuff like that, let's keep things pretty simple and straightforward so I can actually understand, comprehend what's going on, so I know what implant I'm gonna use, what upgrade I'm gonna go for, things like that, right? Keep those things simplified, And then too, simple is what's best. Like if you think about some of the best foods in the world, like to me, ain't nothing better than a nice filet mignon steak, and it don't take a lot, baby. It don't take a lot at all. You know what I'm saying? Hit that mug with a little salt, get the sear on it. Let's get it nice and medium, and we up. You don't see them using 25,000 different herbs and spices on that filet mignon. No, that baby don't need it. It don't need it because the cut of meat is beautiful as it is, right? It's beautiful on its own. And as long as Marathon operates like that filet mignon, that beautiful cut of meat, aka the gameplay loop is on point, gunplay feels good, servers feel great, all that good stuff, man, keep the looting simple, baby. Keep it simple. But that's just my 2 cents. Like, y'all can let me know if y'all feel otherwise. But yeah, ramble over for now.
Shroud is the man. Watching him play PUBG was one of the things that made me fall in love with that game, and I really enjoyed my time with Spectre Divide too. Bummer that game is ending. But I feel like he is pretty disconnected here from the experience most people have while gaming. He will never be locked out of an area of a game because of a skill deficit. There are probably areas in Tarkov that I will never get a good feel for because I won't catch up to the people who've been playing for years, and I will probably never have the amount of time to dump 5,000 hours into a game unless my life and responsibilities change drastically.
Me neither.
While I agree that it is important to have an experience that is layered and offers engaging systems that high playtime players can engage with in the in-game, I feel like Marathon has an opportunity to exist in a space where a much larger amount of players will engage with it. Players who aren't a part of the niche extraction audience as it stands right now.
Yep.
I like the idea of being able to tell my friends who have long hours at work or multiple kids at home that they should pick up Marathon because we'll be able to have a fun time even if they've only got an hour or 2 a week to play the game. I think Marathon has a lot of depth, and I think it will be rewarding for those players, but a shift of focus towards a mass of people who may not spend a lot of time in the in-game content would be refreshing both for the genre and for hardcore multiplayer experiences as well. Next, I want to look at this post from Hidden Xperia. He has some great narrative summaries and stuff like that for the original trilogy that you should definitely check out if you haven't. And
I agree. Yo, Hidden Xperia is somebody else that you need to make sure that you are subscribed to. If you are looking forward to any and everything Marathon, Hidden Xperia is mad dope. So yo, shout out to you, homie.
I think he'll be covering this new game in some great depth. So definitely sub to him if you aren't and want to stay tapped into Marathon narrative stuff in general.
Yeah.
The first section I want to look at is this bullet point. Marathon needs solo offline story-based PvE content in the style of OG Marathon, so people aren't solely hingent on the behavior of others to fully experience the story, as much as this style does have some merit.
Yeah, like, I don't know if y'all met Bungie or not, but Bungie is when Bungie has a story beat, right? Like we've experienced Destiny 1 where I don't have time to explain. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang, I forgot how the silly meme went, but no time to explain, right? I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain. That's how it went. You know what I'm saying? So we've been there before, but we've also been to Witch Queen, right? Lightfall was but Final Shape, right? Like when Bungie has a beat, the narrative can be on point, and I would safely assume, again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll take that L like a champ. But I would safely assume that Bungie is going to have a very unique way of incorporating story beats into this entire extraction shooter gameplay loop, right? Like there has to be a way for them to be able to progress the narrative there. Like we're not just going to be doing stuff and collecting loot and turning it into these factions for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to have a way, and we got to just kind of sit and see how that's going to unfold. Maybe we'll be able to see more once the alpha comes. Actually, I know we'll be able to see more of how it flows when the alpha comes out and then the beta and stuff like that. So we'll be able to get a taste of Bungie's narrative ability here, for lack of a better term, at least what they've developed thus far. We'll be able to check that out here shortly, and I look forward to it.
This Marathon game is not a story-based, offline, campaign-driven FPS. I get why you might not like that. A lot of people who probably connected with the original games might even feel left out of this experience because they either aren't interested in an extraction game, or don't want to experience the story either across multiple live service seasons or YouTube videos.
Valid.
It's entirely reasonable to feel this, but I do not see a reality where the feedback of make a solo campaign game like the originals is relevant really at all. This is not the game they're making, and I don't think there is any possibility of this happening right now. Maybe later on they'll develop something separate, or maybe they'll make an offline version of what they have now, but that work would entirely pull away from a team that is in the middle of making this right now.
That's actually that's a great point. That's a great point, right? Imagine right now Bungie realizes, oh my gosh, we need an offline single player campaign or an offline co-op campaign experience. They're going to literally split their staff in half, and the extraction is going to be lukewarm and the campaign is going to be lukewarm. Like, no, let's just focus all our energy in one thing, perfect that, make that thing piping hot, and then we can consider doing some other things down the road. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, great point.
And I think there is a market of people who want what they are making. I also think that there is a bit of a misunderstanding of what is possible in extraction games with story. Bungie has the opportunity here to tell a complex narrative that simultaneously weaves itself alongside the player-driven stories that people write themselves each session. For example, if you have a run where you are about to gather some data or complete some lengthy contract, that story beat can be punctuated by an intense extraction or being the only survivor in your squad. These moments add so much and work in tandem with the written narrative to enhance it. Environmental storytelling and the terminal entries are so powerful in this game from what I've seen, and to put that into a different genre would make it less powerful. I get wanting a new marathon game in the style of the originals, but this feedback is reductive, maybe is the word, to the work that they've done at least, and feels like yelling Freebird at a concert. Is that a good comparison? I don't know. The point is that amazing stories can be told here, and I think that Bungie exploring this genre to do that would be awesome. I also think that the ephemeral nature of live service content will benefit the impact of narrative events, and I'm not really worried about missing out on something. Even if there is a scenario where some component of the narrative is told exclusively within one season or something, I think that adds to the mystique of the game. Kind of a side note, but I also wonder if each season will operate as like a separate timeline, so we do get iterations of similar events, so people don't miss things, but also we make new decisions that change what occurs to access new stories. Would be very fitting to the Marathon Infinity experience.
That would be mad dope. Like, yo, that would be mad dope if every season is just like jumping around and changing stuff and like, but it just like that right there is a great example of something that Bungie can do and they can execute, and we know they can execute in grand fashion. Like, if it's anybody that has a clutch gene, it's Bungie. I don't care what nobody says, yo. Like, whenever Bungie's back is against the wall, Bungie always finds a way to eat. And right now, I feel like Marathon is kind of like that, you know, based off of some of the rumors we've heard and based off of what's going on with community sentiment. Like, Bungie's back is against the wall here. So if they ate and they made it make sense and we're jumping all over the timeline, I never played Marathon Infinity, so I don't really know. I've seen little bits and pieces about the narrative there, but man, if we're doing stuff like that, hey yo, count me in. Even if we're not, count me in. As long as Bungie As long as Bungie executes on the narrative the way that they've done during their high moments in Destiny, hey, W. That's all I'm gonna say. W.
Point is, story here can be rad, and I don't think we should push an entirely different genre on Bungie to tell that story.
Yep.
The next thing that Hidden Xperia says Marathon needs is proximity chat. Quote, "This one, especially in an extraction shooter, is an absolute no-brainer. Toxicity will always be present, but a simple mute button is all that's needed to circumvent it." And I think it could be cool in Marathon, but I feel like this might be a situation that is entirely outside of Bungie's control. There is a lot of legislation being passed around the world that is seeking to control and regulate online communications. Gaming is a hotbed for, we'll say, unpleasant communication, and it always has been. It's not entirely clear how these new regulations will impact gaming, and all of it is pretty new. Specifically, things like the Digital Services Act seek to ensure that people can easily and promptly report harmful behaviors. In America, we have a lot of free speech protections that allow us to say things that other countries might consider criminal. My assumption is that legal representatives of major companies like Sony are probably reading the writing on the wall and saying, hey, if you're going to allow people to communicate inside of this application, you're going to be held to the same legal standards as communication software.
And let me tell you something, Bungie is not going for that, yo. Bungie is not going to be held liable because you got mad you got killed by a team and you started calling people the N-word and you started calling people, derogatory terms that you ain't got no business saying just because you're mad. Yeah, Bungie ain't gonna be held liable there. Yo, I didn't even think about that from a legality standpoint. I didn't even think about that. I just thought, hey, put prox chat in. It's in Call of Duty. Why can't we have it? It's not hard to code in. It probably is hard to code in, but you know what I'm saying? When you're kind of on your high horse, you're like, man, come on, bro, put it in. But pause. But yo, I didn't think about the fact that it could be due to legislation and maybe there's some legality stuff going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. And Bungie's just trying to keep it hush hush because maybe they're trying to work around it. Who knows, right? So if prox chat never comes, I get it, but I don't get it. I get it from a legal standpoint, but I don't get it from the standpoint of I don't know. Basically, I understand because this was something I didn't think about. So
this could mean something like if someone calls you a slur over proximity chat from another corner of a building,
yep,
you would have to then be able to report that user by name and immediately mute them.
Imagine somebody says something crazy and Bungie pulls your ID, somehow, some way they do some reverse engineering, find out where you are and send it to the country, and the country comes and gets you, and now you're held liable in that yo, imagine. I know that wouldn't happen, but hypotheticals, man. Wouldn't that be crazy, yo? Oh my gosh.
Now, being able to see the names of everyone in a lobby and know when they're in proximity to you so that the reporting feature works properly could create some difficult situations around properly enforcing these regulatory requirements.
Facts.
Obviously, other games have proximity chat, but not all games feature the same dynamic competitive difficulties that an extraction game does. Obviously, Tarkov probably doesn't care because they're based out of Russia and there's a slew of bigger issues they probably run into with having their game in other locales. And I thought Hunt had proximity chat, but I played a few games to try and make it work and couldn't. And then I found some posts online talking about how they too couldn't get it to work. I wouldn't be surprised if this was quietly removed to avoid any upcoming issues or to rework. This is obviously all just conjecture, and Joe Ziegler himself said that he wants to dissuade toxicity, I believe, but the point I'm trying to make is that while this would be cool, it may just be entirely out of their hands, and I don't know that there would be a lot they could do if they want to keep the game playable globally, but still include this feature.
Yeah, I wonder how Activision and Call of Duty gets around it. Maybe they just don't care, right? Maybe they're just whatever, because we all know how Call of Duty lobbies are and how they were back in those Modern Warfare 2 days. Yo, it used to get mad wicked. So maybe they just don't care, but I'll be curious to know, how does Activision get around it? I would love if this may never happen, right? Because, the way Bungie left Activision. But I would love if Bungie could be yo, Activision, how do y'all get around all the legislation in regard to online speech? And they're oh, Bungie, we just do A, B, and C. And Bungie's oh, well, thank you, Activision. And they just walk, their separate ways. And Bungie implements A, B, and C. And boom, prox chat, right? I would love that. But obviously, it doesn't work that way, especially in this space, But yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought.
I guess ultimately, proximity chat for me isn't something that immediately ruins the experience for me. And honestly, when I'm playing multiplayer, most of the times, I don't have a mic on. I'm not super hardcore communicating with people, and I'll probably use the pane system much more effectively than I will the mic in this game, at least, when I'm not playing online or streaming or something. But I just think there might be some other elements here that are making the situation difficult that maybe they can't talk about, and I don't know if it's something that they're going to be able to do.
Yeah, so I'm not Jake, in that regard. Like I used to be, but as of late, I've definitely jumped on Mike more, and it makes it fun. Like whenever I'm casually running some Warzone with the homies, and like somebody's within prox chat range, I'll jump on and just say some silly stuff or be silly, and like they'll be silly back. And it makes it so much more fun when we actually like wipe the squad, or we end up getting wiped and we just kind of talking some smack, or we just, you know, continue trolling or whatever. Like it lifts the experience. It gives the experience a bit of a facelift, right? Because I don't really care too much about Call of Duty, full transparency. I only play it because a lot of my friends do. So I'll jump on with them, and it like makes it so much more palatable because I could jump on prox chat and be like, hey man, where you at, man? Hey, let me come see your feet, dog. Let me come see your feet. And they like, dude, what you talking about, man? You weird, whatever. And I find them and I knock them and I'm like, let me see them feet. And then, you know, I shoot them in the feet, send them to the gulag, whatever. It's fun, right? It's fun. So Bungie, if you all can figure out a way to get it done and you all can be safe in the process, please do it. Please do it. At least for me. If you don't do it for nobody else, do it for your boy. I love you. All right.
Just some food for thought, I guess. The last thing I want to touch on is this Skill Up video. Specifically, it is the episode of their Friends Per Second podcast where they say this about the story.
Yeah, that's what it is. In addition to that, there's some story stuff. But
there's a framework of a story.
There's a
plan. There's a hint of a plan.
Concepts of a plan, yeah.
Concepts of a
plan. Jesus. And I think again, it's unfair to judge that now, because what Bungie have told us is that the narrative framework is built, so how they plan to tell stories in Marathon, but the narrative itself is not built, and it will be sort of built in the lead up to launch and post-launch. So they keep talking about having story as a central part of this experience, but I don't imagine cutscenes, and don't imagine this is a story-driven game or anything like that. This is a game that's going to be about little things that you find and lore entries. And as we discussed in the interview with Joe Ziegler, this will be a game where a lot of the story will be delivered by YouTube videos, in inverted commas, where other people do that detective work for you and then kind of put it in front of you when they've assembled it all. If you know what I mean, Souls-like-esque or whatever, don't expect a narrative experience to come through strongly in your playing of Marathon.
I think there is some major miscommunication occurring about the story for this game. There is an extensive narrative in the game. Direct story beats told via in-game tasks and contract completion, environmental storytelling dictated like the entirety of the visual presentation of the maps that I played, and there is an extensive separate terminal menu that presents the story plus additional world building in a manner consistent with the original games. I might have misunderstood them, but the idea that the story hasn't been written or something, or maybe that they're developing it entirely in between now and launch, seems wholly inaccurate based on my experience with the game.
Yeah, like that wouldn't make sense, right? Like 5 months to go, let's start rocking on the story. Like that wouldn't make sense. And then something else I was thinking about too is like, I understand that, I can't remember the name of the gentleman that made the short film or the short cinematic, right? The 8-minute cinematic. Like there had to be some structure there. Like he didn't just pull that out of thin air. There had to be some like bits there for him to work off of and bring that vision to life. You know what I'm saying? So like there being no story just never really sat right with me either. I'm like, and truth be told, that would be so irresponsible based off of how Destiny 1 went. You know what I'm saying? I know like there's been a lot of shifts, such as, I can't remember the dude's name, but he got caught for flirting with some co-workers and they got him up out of there. You know what I'm saying? So I know the game has exchanged hands quite a bit, but for them to have no story beats just wouldn't make any sense, yo. Now, I will say this, I truly hope they don't rely solely on what I call the Grimoire style of storytelling, because that's what they did in Destiny 1, and I believe in some cases in Destiny 2, where it's like there's all this narrative that's left to be explained by you collecting a Grimoire card and you going online to view that Grimoire card, or you finding a My Name is Bife YouTube video and Bife is breaking it down and you're like, bro, this is dope. I wish I would have heard this in game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really hope Bungie doesn't rely solely on that style of storytelling. I hope Bungie approaches it from multiple multiple ways, kind of like Jake just mentioned, you know, using like the terminals I think is dope. Having some like Grimoire style stuff is okay, right? Like if there's like logs for you to get and you can read through the logs, stuff like that is cool, but find other ways, right? Through the contracts that we do, through the factions, as the world evolves. Be sure to be more in your face with the narrative. That's going to be really important so people can invest more into the story and what's going on around them. That allows for greater immersion, and not having that would just be a total fumble there. So Bungie, please keep that in mind as y'all move forward. If it's not done just yet, please make sure that y'all incorporate it in more of an in-your-face style. All right, before I resume the video, I'm gonna turn on my bedroom light. I had the natural light coming through and it looked great, but the sun has now set, so now all y'all see is a glare off my face. So give me 1 second here. All right, beautiful people, much better. Let's resume.
Also, for a fact, we know that John Goff has been designing this world and its story for well over 2 years, since he worked on the first ARG as well.
I didn't know nothing about that. I don't even know who John Goff is. Shout out to you, John. If you've been working on the narrative for the last 2 years, then yeah, come on, man. Come on.
Alongside OG Marathon dev Robert McLeese. I also think that what Joe's
Hold on, I missed that. Who's the OG?
story for well over 2 years, since he worked on the first ARG as well, alongside OG Marathon dev Robert McLeese.
Wait, OG Marathon dev? I thought nobody from the original Marathon was still at Bungie. Hold on, what? That's what I read online. Yeah, everything you read online isn't right, people. It isn't right, you know? Lars Bracken, is it Bracken or Bracken? I keep wanting to call him Bracken from Adam Bracken with Futurama, but I think it's Lars Bakken, I think is his name. He worked on Halo, yo, right? So there are still OG devs there from OG Bungie, right? Everybody wasn't out the door. There's still some people there. Not everybody there, obviously, but still some people there that know the game. They know the game like the back of their hand. You know what I'm saying? So just trust them. Just trust them. Or try to trust them, I should say, you know?
I also think that what Joe Ziegler is describing in their interview in regards to the story is the consequence of telling a story that is as abstract as what they intend to do here, just like with the original series. It's all love for the folks over at SkillUp, but if I heard what they were saying and didn't have the context I have from playing the game, I would have a very different understanding of what the game is, and I think that's confusing.
Yeah, 100%. When I watched, because I watched the SkillUp video, when I watched it, like my heart sank, because I'm like, yo, if this is true, like outside of the gameplay loop, how are you going to get people invested? You know what I'm saying? So like, it's so good to hear that there was some miscommunication there, and that there has been a lot of work done for the narrative here, for the narrative to succeed. Now, I will say we don't quite know 100% how the narrative is going to be delivered, and that's the thing that's kind of like, uh-oh, right? But I'd much rather worry about that than worry about if a story is even being worked on, you know?
Maybe they or someone else has already talked about this to clarify, or once again, maybe I am misunderstanding them, but my understanding is Marathon is a very filled out, written, larger world with a clear narrative that they are presenting season to season, and that this has been thoroughly planned for and is present. Honestly, so much stuff within the levels themselves are attached to story beats directly from the contracts that I don't fully understand how this confusion gets made, but I understand they had very little time with the game and probably didn't get to experience much of the terminal system that was there. I'm sure I'm missing like a ton of feedback, but this was just the stuff that stood out to me that I felt like I had something to say about. Obviously stuff like microtransactions and live service issues. I don't know if there's like a good response for, because in a sense, like this is a live service game. Surely there'll be microtransactions. If you don't really like that experience, that's not something you're interested in, this might not be the game for you. But I don't think that makes it a bad game or what they're trying to do not worthy of enjoyment. I get why you might not want to play Marathon, is what I'm saying. The story is told through terminals and world elements that are not immediately understandable or available. The visual approach is unique and may not fit what you find personally appealing. It's an extraction shooter with mechanics that many may find frustrating. It's, live service experience that will definitely feature the microtransactions, like I was saying. The characters are, for all intents and purposes, heroes, and you don't seem to have control over their visual presentation currently. Communication or team focus might not be present in a way that you have engaged with before, or you might prefer another approach, or maybe you don't like playing with teams at all. All of these things are valid reasons that you may not connect with the experience Bungie is offering. For me, I don't mind these things as they are presented in the game. I think that a dynamic multiplayer experience in this world with a Bungie shooter feel is very cool.
Yep.
I do think that if you're on the fence or open to trying something you haven't been comfortable with in the past, then Marathon might end up being a very fun game for you. And you shouldn't discard the idea of checking it out based solely on the complaints I've talked about here.
1000%. And now, like, moving forward, you're going to get the opportunity to see the game in a closed alpha state, like live, as individuals are streaming it. So take the time to really see if this is a game for you before spending that premium price. It may not be, and there's nothing wrong with that, but don't write it off based off of some conjecture that is not true. You know what I mean? Like don't do that. Don't do that at all. Quick sidebar, I do hope that the narrative, like, I'm not hoping necessarily for cutscenes, but I just hope that the narrative is delivered through more than just terminals and you going through missions. Well, it depends on how it's delivered as you go through missions. I'm not 100% sure just yet, but I just want to make sure the narrative is more in your face, so as you're playing and as you're experiencing, you are still enveloped in the narrative. Oh, I just got a subscriber. Cool. That kind of threw me off, and that kind of scared me a little bit. But yeah, I just want to make sure that the narrative is like right there. It's in your face as you're going through missions, as you're going through factions, completing contracts and all that. So that way you have a good understanding as to what's going on. So as you move into the next season, you're like, oh yeah, I know everything that happened in season 1. I have a good idea at least, right? So now I'm ready for season 2. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I also want to say that it's all love to the folks I included in this video. I don't have any animosity towards them. I just wanted to lay out, their ideas to express how I feel about those same things. Thanks for having the courage to put your thoughts online so that we could all experience the exchange of ideas around this game. And
for real,
like Joe Ziegler said,
it's a game that's not for everybody, but if you are interested in sort of having that intense survival experience and having a game where the stakes really matter and you feel like they're challenged to survive in a really harsh and interesting world, then Marathon's just right up your alley. So yeah, hopefully that sounds appealing to you.
Yep. Absolutely. Yo, again, an incredible watch. Like, I thought I may have points that I would object, or I may, refute Jake on, but in all honesty, I just found myself just about agreeing with everything there. Yo, that's hilarious. Yeah, incredible watch. Make sure you all go let this run, whether if y'all let it run in the background, y'all watch it again, listen to it, send it to your friends, send it to your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, sisters. Send this video to everybody, right here. My thoughts on the response to Marathon, because Jake does an incredible job of debunking things and giving a different perspective. So Jake, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence in regard to this video. You're the GOAT. Everybody, I appreciate you all for coming and watching. I'll catch you all in the next video, and until then, as you all know, we are signing out.